Hi folks, Dr. Hopewell and Dr. Lynn here, recording another how-to video for you to make sure you're moving along with your data collection. We have a couple of points we want to cover in this short video, so I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Lynn to start with the launching of the data collection.
Okay, the focus for this video is the first piece of data that you will actually collect for your study. Now, keep in mind, you start this process after you've received approval from us saying that IRB also approved that you proceed. So it's okay to watch the video ahead of time, but just don't get started until you get the thumbs up from us that it's time to get started. So the data collection piece that you're going to be working on is the consent and assent summary. So it includes recording your principal consent, some details about that, parent consent, again, details about that, and then student assent.
Before we get to that particular worksheet, which we'll do later, I wanted to cover a few quick items that might trip you up along the way. The first thing is to remember that each of the researchers, so each of the folks in the pair, or if in the case of a larger group, each of you will collect and create one of these worksheets that we'll be covering here in just a minute. So don't feel like you have to coordinate across multiple researchers to fill this in. Each of you just do your own and submit that. The second thing to keep in mind is that in this semester for ED 750, we call our assignment due dates checkpoints, and that is because at this point everyone is going to be starting to separate and conduct their study at their own pace. And so checkpoints are not necessarily due dates. They're checkpoints. They are periods of time during the semester when Dr. Lynn and I think that you should be fairly well advanced in a particular area. So we ask for a checkpoint, a checkup on that. It's really more for you necessarily than it is for us, because if you have not gotten significantly down the road in a certain area, then it's going to tell you that you may be behind a little bit. So if you get to Sunday evening of what we have as a due date and you haven't completed everything in that particular checkpoint, don't panic. Turn in what you have. Let us know how things are going. These are truly checkpoints, and that's why we call them checkpoints instead of due dates. So just want to make sure you don't get too bound up in that.
Okay, one of the things that is part of the checkpoint approach is one, giving you some target dates to shoot for. We know your lives are busy, and as teachers, there's plenty of things on your plate. It's easy to put things aside. But this way, it helps you progress a little bit as the semester goes. It also gives us a really quick and simple picture of how are you progressing on your study without you having to send us piles and piles of documents. So let's take a look at the consent assent summary example that a prior student gave us permission to share. There's also one posted in the assignment gallery that's a little bit more simplified than this one, but I wanted to use this one as an example just to show you some of the main information that you want to have. First, why do you document this? Why don't you not just send out the forms, pull them in, count out the number that agreed, and then say, these are my participants? One of the things that you need to keep in mind is you're not just a teacher, you're a teacher researcher in this case. And the important thing is that your research is systematic from the beginning through the middle and all the way until the end. And this is kind of a protection for yourself as well, this particular document, because it shows if you said in your methodology all of the students in your classroom are potential participants, it shows that yes, you sent out the consent letter and form to the parent, the date that you sent it, and then when they returned it. And then also you can see in that parent consent column, it says, did they approve and the date that that approval was given, or did they deny and the date that that was given? In this particular case, this student was teaching middle school students, and so children older than 7 years of age, so she was required to also include the student assent. Now, you can see that the form for student assent was sent out the same date that the parent consent was returned, and sometimes it was then signed and dated the exact same date. That may or may not be the case. Sometimes some students sent out the parent consent, get that back first, and then do the student assent in the classroom as a teacher only with those who agreed, who have the parent consent for their child to participate. So you can see those two columns show a good clean record of the number that were distributed, when they were sent out, when they were received, and the response that they received. This student then added a column, parent and student comments or questions. And so this really documents that, the parent, in the case of student number 9, notice the anonymity, no names being used at all, using numbers to refer to the potential participants. Number 9 indicates prefers the child not participate. Also, that was the case for number 16. And then you can notice on number 14 that that particular participant or potential participant moved, and so they will no longer be considered as a potential study participant. And then you can see the identifiers then that this teacher researcher assigned to each of those students for whom the consent and assent was granted. What did I miss, Dr. Hopewell?
Well, just one last thing. The reason we have you set up this, another reason we have you set up this worksheet is that you do not need to scan and send us all of the parent and student consent and assent forms. We've had those questions in the past. Do I need to, do I need to put them in the mail? Do I need to make a copy? Do I need to scan them? What do I need to do? Those are for you as the researcher. This worksheet will help us understand what's going on your end. We don't need to see all of those.
Okay, and that said, one of the things that you'll want to also view is the organization how-to video. However you choose to organize your data, this is a good clean page to put in that, say, a binder where you have an at-a-glance view of the consent assent letters that were sent out, and then you keep your actual signed copies with that. So if there's ever a question, you have that documentation to back you up. Okay, well, I hope you're excited to be beginning this initial phase of becoming an actual teacher researcher. Let us know if you've got questions, and good luck to all of you.
Goodbye.